Justin Steele is out for the season. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Monday, April 14th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers and Justin Steele. Big news from the weekend. He is out for the season due to an elbow injury. He needs reconstructive surgery. Not exactly sure yet if it's going to be Tommy John or some other, primary repair type surgery, but we do know that he is going to be out. And Chris, obviously this is a big loss for fantasy. It's a big loss for the Cubs too. He is their ace in real life. But for those in fantasy, he was likely your SP2 or SP3. This is a really big loss.
Yeah, the Cubs are going to have to just keep mashing their way to wins. Luckily, they scored 16 on the Dodgers in one of their games this weekend. They're crushing it right now. But yeah, it's a big loss. Justin Steele, it was one of those things where last year he had the elbow tendonitis, came back, pitched through it over the last week of the season, gets through spring, but then he has the elbow tendonitis again. Then he gets the second opinion. I was like, yeah, this is probably not going to end well. And I don't think the Cubs have anybody in place to replace him. So yeah, were you asking for waiver wire replacements from me?
Oh, don't worry. We're going to get to those
All
now. Colin Ray took his spot in the rotation for what it's worth on Sunday. And outside of the deepest leagues, I don't think you should be looking at him in fantasy. If you're looking for sleeper pitchers for this week in particular, here are some of the names that Scott likes: Jeffrey Springs, Grant Holmes, Mitch Keller, Easton Lucas, Tyler McGill, JP Sears, Landon Roop, Jameson Tyone, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Osvaldo Bido. If we're thinking,
mention one name.
Okay.
The Cubs do have a top pitching prospect at AAA, Cade Horton. He was their first round pick in the 2022 draft. He's like a top 55 to 90 prospect according to most rankings, but he's at AAA right now. Big strikeout stuff, big control issues at times as well, but he's someone, if he gets hot and then keeps the walks down, could factor in relatively quickly there.
Yeah, I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries the past couple of years, I believe shoulder related. So he is definitely a name worth bringing up. We'll see if Cade Horton can make an impact at some point this season with the Cubs. Those were the sleeper pitchers that you can look at for this week. If we're thinking more long-term, here were some names that stood out from the weekend. Hayden Wesneski, Chase Dolander, Matthew Boyd, David Peterson. That's the first group of four here. Chris, is there a name that stands out from that group that you like as a Justin Steele replacement?
I mean, Wesneski got 10 strikeouts this week, which I didn't really think he had that kind of upside. Sweeper is a pretty good swing and miss pitch for him. I don't know if the rest of the arsenal is good enough for Hayden Wesneski to be much more than I would say in a roto league, a pretty fringe option. I think in a points league, he's probably under rostered at 51% just because he does have SPARP eligibility, gives him a little added value. But in a roto league, I think I would rather take the flyer on Chase Dolander, who does have 13 strikeouts and 10 2/3 innings in his first two starts, only 3 walks. The stuff looks good. He's getting whiffs. It's just that, one, he's given up 2 home runs in each of his first 2 starts. That's a concern. But really, it's just the course field of it all. Can he keep his head above water in course field well enough to be an impact player when he's on the road? Or is this strictly you start him on the road, you sit him at home? I lean towards the latter, but I do think Dolander, the talent is there for him to be a must-start guy on the road. Yeah.
I think I would take both those guys from this group as well, but I do want to just give a shout out to Matthew Boyd, who's looked good so far this season, and he was good last year, and I believe it was like 12
8 starts, something like that. But
with the Guardians, but yeah, he's looked good so far, and obviously pitches for the Cubs, and great defense behind him, and good run support. So I do think Matthew Boyd is interesting as well. Let's take a break, and we'll talk about some other replacements right after this.
Baby, we are gonna start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs
simply devastating
to worldwide stars,
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
The English Football League on CBS Sports Network, and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and Justin Steele out for the season. We're going over waiver wire replacements. The next group all pitched well this weekend: Ben Brown, Shane Smith, Edward Cabrera, and David Festa. I think all individually are pretty interesting here. Chris, is there one or two that you can see kind of standing out and actually being useful for fantasy from this group?
So I think Smith in points leagues, again, 30% rostered. He is a Sparp. I think he's probably deserves to be more highly rostered in points leagues in particular. He might be the least interesting talent of this group. Although Ben Brown, it's just a one pitch mix, really. Like, he throws a fastball and a curveball and a very rare changeup, but the curveball is really the only impact pitch he's got. So I would probably put him at the bottom. Edward Cabrera, I'm not going to buy in. I need a lot more than one decent start to buy in because he still walked 3 in this one. So I actually think David Festa might be the most interesting of this group. The Twins tend to handle their pitchers with kids' gloves. They don't let them go deep into games. He only went 4 2/3 innings on 64 pitches in this one, but he's got a decent fastball that gets whiffs. He's got a good slider and changeup combo that can get whiffs. So I do think there is some upside with David Festa. I just don't know how long he stays in the Twins rotation.
4 more names that did some interesting things this weekend: Matthew Liberatore, Andre Palante, Jose Quintana, and Will Warren. So we're getting a little bit deeper into the player pool here. Maybe if you play in 12 or 15 team mixed roto leagues or deeper, these are some names that you can look at. Same question, Chris. Anyone that stands out from this group: Will Warren, Quintana, Palante, and Matthew Liberatore?
I think Warren is probably the most interesting, and that might just be because he's also the most unproven, although I do think his stuff is pretty good. He's getting whiffs with the 4-seamer, especially 47% whiff rate for the season, even in a 4 or 3 start sample. That's a really impressive mark. I want to say Ryan Pepio was among the leaders, or might have led all starters last year, and it was around 30%. So just to give you some context there, and the sweeper can get whiffs too. So I think Will Warren's the most interesting. Liberatore is a somewhat recent prospect who changed his approach, leaned on his slider as his most used pitch in this one, and it's always been his best pitch. So there might be something there, especially with his velocity up, but I need to see more than one start from Liberatore before I buy in.
And then I have a bunch of names in deeper leagues. You tell me if any of these are interesting, Chris. Andrew Abbott, Tyler Anderson, JT Ginn, Luis L. Ortiz, Kyle Hart, Joe Boyle, and Davis Martin. So we're talking like the deepest of the deep, but anybody stand out from that group?
Luis Ortiz is, I think the stuff has always been pretty good, especially the fastball, which he started throwing the 4-seamer more in this one, got 8 whiffs with it. He's throwing it a lot more against lefties, especially. That makes sense. His overall numbers are still pretty bad, so it's just one start. Joe Boyle, kind of similar, where he's got really interesting skills, tons of strikeout potential, very bad control historically, including in the minors before this, 6 walks in his first 2 starts. But those guys are interesting. JT Ginn is interesting. Andrew Abbott, I've just been wrong about a lot over the past 2.5 seasons. So maybe I'll just continue to be wrong about him because I don't think there's a ton there, but he got another good result. This is what Andrew Abbott has done for going on 3 seasons now. So maybe he'll keep it up, but I don't have a lot of faith in it.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.